Hello, my name is Luciana Téllez. I'm the Public Relations Officer for the 2014 Conflict, Security and Development Conference, which has focused this year on organised crime and conflict zones. I'm here with Sara Batmanglich, who is the head of Crime, Violence and Instability, our international alert. Sara, thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
So I had a couple of questions for you. The first of them is maybe if you could describe how International Alert promotes peace around the world, and more specifically, how your work relates to this.
Yes, so International Alert is a peace-building organization. We have, I think at the moment, about 15 country offices around the world, and we really do a broad range of activities depending on the context. Those are very much implemented through our local offices. This is a very new program for us, and it came about because we recognized that the types of conflict violence that we traditionally dealt with as peace builders was in many cases morphing. Conflicts are increasingly becoming criminalized, and also obviously criminal activities are very opportunistic, and when we're dealing with post-conflict and fragile states, it presents a big window of opportunity for those activities and those actors to move into that space. So, there's been some discussion internally before we started looking at this, whether this was something that peace building should even begin to discuss, and I think that's a sentiment that's come out very clearly here, especially in the first panel today, that this is something that academia has been comfortable with, this is something that law enforcement has been comfortable with, but it's now just sort of moving more broadly into comprehensive responses, and we recognize the need for that. So International Alert thought we need to look into this much more from a peace building angle, see what it means for our work and the types of states and societies that we're trying to support. And when we talk about stability, this obviously has huge implications for it. And then also, conversely, see what, if anything, the field of peace building has to offer in terms of these responses, which, again, as the first panel pointed out, are still very much in the development phase of figuring out kind of how governments, communities, et cetera, can work together more holistically to address this. So that's kind of the angle. It's a dual angle approach. We want to try to reflect that learning within our own work, and then also see what we can offer.
Thank you. So the second thing I wanted to discuss with you is you just co-authored a report called "The New Deal's Peace Building and State Building Goals and Organized Crime." And part of this report, I believe, according to what I understood, is try to also promote an understanding of criminal networks as potential peace spoilers. Can you discuss more?
It was a really interesting exercise. I think because the New Deal and the PSGs are sort of the closest thing we have right now to an accepted, I would say, accepted international framework for what peace building and state building are. And so what we did, myself and my co-author Katrina Hoyer, we used that framework to categorize the different types of threats that organized crime and criminality poses, particularly to fragile states. It was a very depressing exercise because for each of the 5 PSG areas, you can just very, very clearly see links between what we as the international community and fragile states as partners are trying to achieve in terms of state building and peace building, and then where criminality, as you were saying, can really come into it and spoil it. And I think if we had to summarize the sort of subtext beyond the PSG areas, which are politics, security, justice, etc., it would really be about the legitimacy of the state and undermining that legitimacy, and then also preventing, so that's at the sort of governance level, and then undermining the kind of core of the state-society compact, which is already in many places in desperate need of rebuilding. And so those were the 2 levels that we saw this really impacting on, and the need to target things not just at the political can deliver them services, can deliver them security, etc. Again, it's about the window of opportunity that can be seized. So it was very much a wake-up call for our community in particular, I think, that if we really do want to achieve these goals, then this is not something that we're going to be able to ignore.
So you just brought up the topic of legitimacy, which I think is a crucial one. You have done relevant fieldwork research in the Mana River region, Liberia and Sierra Leone. And in a lot of programs of peace building, naturally the state is a key stakeholder that needs to be, as you said, built up and build up more legitimacy, its capacity to deliver public services. But in both of these cases, perhaps the biggest problem was that the state itself was criminalized and it was used as an instrument to sustain networks of patronage. So what kind of strategies can you think of, or can you propose that the international community has suggested on one side, or that NGOs also can contribute to tackle this very difficult issue?
I think, and just to clarify, I wasn't doing in Liberia and Sierra Leone, I wasn't specifically looking at this issue. I was sort of broader peace building issues. But this, I personally, this is my personal belief, very much think this is one of them. But the difficulty obviously comes in with state capacity and what we can do and support in the interim. And a lot of traditional security and law enforcement and justice responses really do require a certain level of state capacity. Sometimes, particularly in places like Liberia and Sierra Leone, they're not quite up to that level yet. So in the interim, I would say, just based on discussions that I've had on the ground, that very much engaging civil society much more on this topic, engaging communities much more on this topic, and raising awareness amongst them and really allowing them to accompany this process and the capacity building of their own governments is one thing that we can start tomorrow. We don't have to wait for the security services to be fully up and running. We don't have to wait for reforms to take place throughout the government. We can really start that dialogue and that process now. And to one degree, I think it really begins at letting communities know that this is something which is not just an economic activity that benefits them. It might sometimes appear that way, and when there's severe economic constraints, it's understandable that it serves a very real purpose, being involved in certain activities. But I think it's about sort of just broadening the scope and allowing them to see that there are very harmful and deleterious effects that usually eventually accompany some of these things, and letting them make their own mind up. But I think giving them the information to be able to do that is one thing that we can really, really support.
Thank you so much for your time, Sara.
Thank you.
That is all for us. So thank you for watching. For those who were unable to attend the conference, all the panels will be uploaded as a podcast on our website. And of course, stay posted on our social media outlets, because we will also release a final report with original articles from an organizing committee. So thank you.